They say that culture is informed by landscape, and I've been really thinking a lot about this, and as I take to the banks of the river, as I have done most of my life during the summer months, I'm really thinking about this beautiful river that I grew up on and that continues to provide me with a place to retreat for peace, tranquility. And because the background noise is really sort of one of the great songlines of my life. The River Esk is a remarkable ancient salmon river that tumbles down 28 miles long, and it starts from a series of tributaries up at Westerdale called the Esklets. And as it comes down the Esk Valley, 28 miles, the great Esk Valley, it gathers a pace as it's fed by various becks and streams. I've written some of them down because they've got such great names. So it starts with 3 streams that meet together near Westerdale, and then it's fed by Whitegill, Cloughbill, Stockdale Beck, Tower Beck, Baysdale, Sleddale, Hob Beck. To name a few: Clitherbeck, Ellerbeck, Great Fryup Beck, Little Fryup Beck, Woodbeck, Broad Carbeck, Stonegate Beck, right the way down until it merges with the Merk Esk River at Gromont, and then carries on down through Slights and Russup. By the time it gets to Russup, between Slights and Russup, people are boating and canoeing on it, as I have done most of my life. I have nearly drowned in this river twice. I've fallen into it more times than I care to remember. I have skimmed stones on it. I have explored its banks throughout my childhood. It has informed me as a storyteller. The River Esk is my muse. I hear her most of the time in the background where I live. I have left. I have travelled the world. I've lived in many other places, but the Esk River seems to call me home. But it's also an extraordinary sustenance for wildlife. So many other beings live here. And if I just spin the camera, you will see that I am on this beautiful, sunny, lockdown day on a bend in the river. I will tell you, in all my years I have never seen it so low. I hope you can see this because I'm just spinning the camera. I've never seen it this low. It's a very, very long dry period we're having. And it's interesting because, of course, our water comes from the river. This is known as the Esk Valley catchment area, and the water we drink that comes out of our taps is from this beautiful, ancient, extraordinary running river. The salmon, they come all the way from Alaska every year, and they come up the river to lay their eggs. This is the spawning ground for Atlantic salmon, Alaskan salmon. They lay their eggs after they make the great journey up the river, through the waterfalls, hanging like magical beings, silver-backed magic, holding themselves in these curtains of water until they leap up and cross into the deeper water and carry on. I've watched them so many times. The first time in my life as a child I realised that nature was full of magic was when I saw those salmon suspended in the water and then leaping, silverback giants, upstream. It was sort of impossible. It was a strange trick, as though an invisible hand of a magician had them suspended there. It was extraordinary. It is extraordinary. And they come upriver and they lay their eggs. And then they die. They've done their job. And the new fish hatch. And they swim back all the way down the 28 miles out to sea. Perhaps not the whole 28 miles because they don't quite go to the source for spawning, but they go all the way back down the river out to sea and undertake this unfathomably long journey back to Alaska, to breeding grounds. And the next year they come back. And how they find their way such an unthinkable distance to the tiny little river estuary on this northeast coast of Whitby is one of the great mysteries of nature and this life. But so the river is a song, and the river has a story, and the river is ancient. She runs down glacial valleys at Great Fryupdale. It drops 100 feet down Crunkly Gill. There are fish ladders, there are weirs and waterfalls, there are all these different becks, and I have played here. There goes a bird of prey over my head. I can hear the cry. And all my childhood we played along the banks of the Esk, so it was a magical wonderland, a place of dens and adventures and rope swings and hidden pockets of wonder and fish and minnows and bloodsucker eels and trout and watching the great salmon and the kingfisher. Blue-back diamond streaks past. I saw one last night. The heron, the great heron, lifts its great wings. There are two on the river at the moment, just in this stretch. The Esk is the most remarkable, beautiful, extraordinary river. Something so sacred and precious. It's also one of the only rivers in the north of England that has freshwater pearl mussels. So they've tried really hard to keep the waters healthy, to preserve these unique mussels, because of course, like everything else, once they're gone, they're gone. I haven't seen the waters this low before, and I just started thinking, you know, if this river dried up, something in me would just stop singing. It's so precious. I sometimes, like everybody else, I have difficult times and bad days, and I come to the river and I find so much comfort here. You know, I can tell my stories to the river, I can cry my tears, say my prayers, share my joys. So many years now. So in a way my own story is the river's story, and the river's story is my story. And I've you know, lived many other places and always come back. I may have to leave again, I just don't know. But the river is part of my song and in my soul now. So the beautiful River Esk. I would like to now share a very old story with you, because of course it's so full of folklore. There are so many stories from the banks of this river. A river which is flanked by pannier tracks, old pathways, monks' trods. It's flanked by monasteries, old hermitages. It was always a place that attracted the monastic, those who would worship the sacred in nature. Early Christians, previously of course before that, it was the time of the witch, the pagan, the sacred grove, the hallowed hills, an extraordinary, incredible environment, a valley, a green lantern of oak forest. And I'd like to share a story with you about an old hermitage and a hermit, and a tale of the penny hedge, which I will do in the next video.